sometimes, it used to get a little scary for me because I had just started driving there. And, I used to go to strange, like, I'm just trying to find addresses and stuff like that for the first time. I've never done that in India, right? Because I always had people with me wherever I went. So for me, it was also a little scary going out on your own, not having anyone to, kind of just take you there. That's what we were used to in India, right? We just sit in the car and the driver just takes you there. Sometimes you don't even know where you're going and he just takes you there. And you have to find it on your own. तभी थोड़ा कभी कभी लगता था I wish people would recognize me and they would say, no, you're going the wrong way. Go that way, that's the way you want to go. But, that you have to discover everything yourself.
And of course, the big problem that you will increasingly be facing going forward, and especially if you're Satyanama, when people are coming up to you and you're not expecting it, is that earlier they would ask you for autographs, and that's fine. Now everyone asks you for a selfie. And you're saying, my God, look at the way my hair is.
Yeah, the day you have oil in your hair and you think nobody's going to see you today, and you're like the shabbily dressed, and you're like, I just want to go out, just get a pair of something, milk, lana hai, bachon ke liye, and you just step out, and that's the day you're going to meet someone. Saying that, can we have a picture? And you're like, oh my God, now she's going to have a picture with me looking like this. So it does happen sometimes.
And what did you say? Can I
yes,
give you an autograph?
Let's do it. Because they're your fans.
So there are all those pictures of Madhuri Dixit out there with oil in her hair somewhere on the internet, which people can now go and find. Can we put them all up in this? No, I'm just kidding. I'm just kidding. And is it, actually, and again, this question I'm sure you've been asked, but is it actually true that you had absolutely no idea of who she was?
So no one believes it, but I grew up in LA and I worked at UCLA and with a lot of the celebrities, but I hadn't grown up watching Indian films. And so the way we put it is everyone put their pants on one leg at a time and you needed to treat them the same way. And so my parents moved to London in '63 and then to the US in '73 and really hadn't kept close ties to the Hindi films or anything else, unlike many Indians, I must say. But as a result of that, it was refreshing for her because I think one thing she didn't bring out to your question is that anonymity has its benefits. And them asking her who she was not a bad thing always, because here it's the opposite way, that she can't go anywhere. And she's a prisoner of her own fate, which is a good thing. But on the other hand, sometimes makes you very, how should I put it, constrained. Even in Denver and any of the big cities like LA when we got married, there were a lot of Indians. And so it was an issue. But to answer your question, I really didn't know because I didn't grow up watching the films. I couldn't speak Hindi. I spoke Marathi fluently. And so for me, the Hindi films didn't have a draw. I'd only seen 2 films. One was Amar Akbar Anthony, and the other one was Pakiza, which my mom had an 8-track tape and she would have in our car all the time. And I knew like all the lyrics to the songs.
So have you watched all of her films by now or not yet?
I've seen the ones where, so there's 2 rules in our house. One is we never talk shop. So all of her awards, all of her other stuff is all at the office. And she doesn't want the kids or us to be affected. That's how she grew up. The second is that I've been to some of the film premieres and that's what I've seen, but she's not very comfortable watching films with family. And so for me, watching them separately is kind of an odd thing. And so really I've seen the ones since we were married. We've been married for 18 years. And so I've seen those only, and maybe a little bit from Hum Apke Hai Kaun and Dil To Pagal Hai, but not a whole lot.
You're trying to tell me everybody in this hall has seen more Madhuri movies than you have.
Yes.
The funny thing is even my kids get a little skittish when they're watching my movies. So there was this movie called Koila, which was coming on the TV. And I was just leaving out to go out to get something. And they were watching it. And when I came back, the kids had gone for their swim lesson. And on the computer, I saw this little note hanging. Because when I left, the song was going on where I eat bang and I get, a little high and we sing bum chicka bum, some song going on. So I came back home and I saw this little note. And I said, what is this? So I started reading it and it was like written, Dear Mom, why are you acting so weird in this movie? Love, Arin. So my son had written me a little note, say, why are you acting so funny and weird in this movie?
All right, let me just ask you one question. Internet rumor, I'm just going to try and see whether this is true or not true. Is it true that the first date you took her for was mountain biking and you almost made her go down a hill?
It was.
Mountain biking I mean, Ram, seriously?
Why? I had no idea. I think that the thing was I grew up doing everything, surfing, biking, hiking, mountain.
He didn't realize that in India, the sports is not a big thing, Like for us, biking is like, bicyclically, or, you're just going in your streets, la 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 la, and that's it, you're biked. And when he said, for the first time, he asked me, would you like to go mountain biking? I hadn't sat on a bike since 20 years, maybe more. And I'm like, yeah, why not? Because I just thought it'll be a mountain, and I just cruising down, coming down the road, and, I said, yeah, of course, let's go. And then he bought me these shorts, which were like padded and all. And I'm like, oh my God, what is this? And once I went on there, I was like, wow, am I really doing this? And we came down the slope, which was so, full of rocks. And because of my ego, I couldn't say that I've not done this before, I'm not going to do it. And I'm like, I'm coming down that slope, holding onto that bike for my dear life. And I look back and I say, did I just do that? And after a while, like, we were in the mountain for 45 minutes, 1 hour. And there was this one little place where I said, you know what? I can't do this. And he said, what do you mean you can't do this? I said, this is the first time I'm mountain biking. And we both started laughing. And he's like, really? You've never done this before? I said, no, I'm sorry.
And you didn't think that perhaps a candlelight dinner at some restaurant might make more?
Oh, we did that
That's
later.
him. He wants to like jump off some bridge and, do mountain biking and jump off an airplane and, that's fun for him.
As a heart surgeon, you see death in front of you every day. And you don't take life for granted. You do everything to its fullest. And the idea was that you go and race Formula Ones, you go and bungee jump, you skydive, you surf, you do everything you can, and you want everyone around you to live life that way. And so for me, it's a little different. And with her, I took all the precautions. I had a fully suspended Gary Fisher, and I even brought these like really tight padded pants. And I thought for sure her mom would throw me out, because in India, when my grandma's days and my parents, they're like, girls always wear their knee-length skirts and all that. And she was fine with them. She's like, Bombay has changed. And she was comfortable. But I must say that I carried the bike more than she rode it, because it was a very technical ride, and there were a lot of boulders and things. And I didn't know it was behind her brother's house in Irvine and Aliso Viejo, and I didn't know how tough of a ride it was, but I was okay, and I figured she would be.
He was just cruising along, and I was like, I was like really.
Okay, so that was internet rumor to him. Internet rumor for you. Is it true that one of the first things that really, one of the reasons you married him was because of his cooking skills? Is that true?
Well, yeah, that's partially true. First of all, when I met him, he didn't know who I was. That was the most refreshing thing. Because whenever I meet people...
Then does he get a chance to still cook?
Oh, yeah, he loves to cook. He just loves to cook. And I think I started cooking only after marriage. And a lot of the cooking that I do, I learned from him. Because he's a great cook. He can do things from scratch, like whether it's Italian or whether it's, barbecuing and, everything I've learned from him. So...
I think the key is I'm a foodie, and I love to eat. And India has amazing food. And so coming here was like a breath of fresh air. I can never come close to my mother-in-law or my mother or my cook in terms of cooking prowess. But for me, it's almost, spiritual in how you create things. And it's a way of showing love, right?
No, you were not, and even this debate has raged actually for decades. You were not a star kid, you came inside. Is it easier or tougher for somebody outside the film industry to get a break in?
I don't know if it's tougher or easier, but I think if you're from the industry, you know how it works. Because you've seen your parents, go through the motions. You've seen how, the whole industry works. When you're from the outside, you don't know how it works. So first you have to discover how the industry works, and then you have to make your contacts, and even after you've done one film, you have to keep, doing film after film to show that you have it, you can do it, So it's a little difficult to be an outsider and come into the industry and make a name for yourself. But I think even for the star kids, it's hard because, they are under scrutiny all the time. And they are scrutinized in a much tougher way than what an outsider might come and do, So you might be a little kind to an outsider, but with a star industry kid, you will be like a little more harsh, saying that, oh, he's so-and-so's son, why can't he act in the first movie itself? You want him to be like a star. So I think both things are difficult to do, you know. They have their own difficulties and they have their own plus or minuses.